Okay, welcome. It's Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. We're on planet Earth. Some of you might have been questioning that. I'm Joe Weston. I question that sometimes, but today I'm not. So I can fully stand in my fullness and say I am Joe Weston in this moment. And it's an honor to have you all here. And it's great to see, as always, I say, it's great to see familiar faces, people who come back on a monthly basis, people who drop in once in a while, people who are here for the first time. It's great to be here. And that is the purpose of this global heart gathering, is we gather with one another. We come with open hearts, with curiosity, with care for one another, with our wisdom. And we use this time to ground, to get centered, to remember we're not alone, and to get a sense of continuing our own practice. If this interests you and you're here for the first time, welcome. And I say that in a deep way with deep admiration, because if something like a global heart gathering made you curious to come, then you're in the right place. And you're a hero or heroine or heroics in my book. Because the world needs more of us who are committed to the practice that we're doing on a monthly basis, which is cultivating within ourselves a deeper sense of resilience and fierce compassion, and what that means for the world. And as Deborah started earlier, already said, is that what a unique and fascinating time we find ourselves in. Deborah, do you mind saying it the way you said it? You said it so beautifully and eloquently.
I'll say it the way it is in this moment,
Yes,
which
please.
is I'm excited. I'm jazzed. I When do we get a chance to lay it all out, to be fully who we are, to stand up in what we believe in and go for it? This is for me, it's I mean, I would imagine it's like an athlete who sits on the couch for 6 years and then gets to run again or gets to swim again. It's
Yes.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I've been saying this for the last 3 or 4 months now. Like, what if this is the time that we've been waiting for? Well, people say that this is the time we're waiting for, but what if this is the time that what is happening now is what we all needed for us to get to the point to realize how much power we each individually have, how gifted we all are, how, and that in a sense, these gifts, this wisdom, this capacity that we have has been dormant or latent in some way. And that these times are so uncomfortable, and I use that word because for someone it could be a scary time. These times are so extreme that it's abrasive enough that it's going to just activate us and help us to naturally recognize how much more power we have than we really think we have, how much more capacity we have to influence. And this is what this work is. We've been preparing for this. We've been doing this Global Heart Gathering, I believe, since 2017. And people come from around the world. And if they're not here on this system, which we call the World Wide Web, to join us on Zoom, then they're with us in their hearts. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people who are in this community who are dedicated to what we've been practicing, is to become midwives for this time, midwives for a system that is dying away, and midwives for what is being born and what is being birthed, or what is born and birthed. And that's a very uncomfortable moment to be in. Systems are dying away, new systems are being born. And who is holding space in a neutral way, like a doula or a midwife would do, to be able to be in it with the compassion and the fierceness that is needed to help this process not get caught up in the moment, but to hold a sense of objectivity, not detachment, fully engaged, but with hearts open. And I want to share this image that I'm now, so I'm, as you know, with my journey, if you've been with me, I left DC in January. I spent a month in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. Then I was in Italy, and you've been with me. If you've come to these sessions, you've been with me there. I'm now in Amsterdam, and every place I've gone to, the neighborhood somehow has welcomed me. That's for another conversation. But I'm going to share with you how the neighborhood welcomed me right down the street from where I live. I'm going to share this image. Can you see that? That's right near where I am, like 3 minutes from where I am. We walk this earth, our hearts shimmering. I like the 314 too. It's not totally pi, but it could be pi. But we walk this earth, our hearts shimmering. And I'm bringing that up as the theme of what we've been tracking now. If you've listened to the Global Hearts from December, January, and February, March, and now it's April, is how can this time give us the opportunity to up our game? We have been working on this idea of creating more capacity in our hearts to have love and compassion for more beings, more human beings on this planet. And I use the Buddhist definitions of love and compassion. The definition of love in Buddhist cosmology is the desire to make someone happy and acting on that desire. That's love. The desire to make someone happy and acting on that desire. The definition of compassion is the desire to alleviate the suffering of others and acting on that desire. The desire to alleviate the suffering of others and acting on that desire. So with this practice, we are cultivating deeper levels of love and compassion. And it's not just some lofty idea of love and compassion. It's what I call cultivating the skills and strategies of the heart. And I've been developing work, for those of you who've done trainings with me or coaching, that I've used and synthesized with deepest respect and for decades now of study and practice, where I continue to practice, of learning, of cultivating and practicing what I call technologies. Taoist principles, Buddhist principles, Eastern philosophies, martial arts, Western philosophies. These are technologies, not just techniques. Just because there's no metal involved or a little data chip doesn't mean it's not a technology. These are technologies that have been used for thousands of years. And this is something that we can cultivate. And what we're practicing here is using the technologies to cultivate the skills and strategies of the heart, to awaken the heart so that our hearts are shimmering. So that when we walk on the streets, our hearts are shimmering. And that doesn't mean we're weak. That doesn't mean we're vulnerable or fragile. That does mean we're vulnerable. And for those of you who know me and my work, I've been saying now for decades, it's in your vulnerability that your true power is revealed. It's in your vulnerability that your true power is revealed. So this practice, and that if that is the case, it's in your vulnerability that your true power is revealed, then something to consider is, for those people who aren't in their vulnerability, they're not tapping into their power. What they're probably doing is using external conditions and contrivances, is that a word, to exert power, but they're not tapping into their power. And I believe that the more weapons and guns you need, the more you're basically saying, I don't feel confident within myself to be strong. I need external things to do it for me. The more of a bully I am, the more I'm exerting my truth on others and oppressing. This is just, no one, You don't have to see it the same way I do. I'm not saying I'm right. This helps me to frame what's happening on this planet. That what the time needs now is for more of us to have our hearts shimmering with the power that's residing there, the transformational power of the heart that can only happen when we cultivate the skills and strategies to be vulnerable enough without getting harmed, without losing ourselves, to stand strong and resilient in the face of adversity. And I didn't make this up. There are stories. I mean, there are stories that billions of people read on a daily basis that clarify this. So look it up. As my mother used to say, hey, Mom, what is that? She'd say, look it up. Look it up. And this is what, last time we talked about this idea of how do we awaken in our hearts that power? And what is significant on this practice is that if we want to find our way out of polarization, if we want to find our way out of this false mental construct that human beings develop called separation, we have to cultivate love and compassion, not just for those we like. That there are different levels of expertise in this work, I guess you would, not expertise, but like as Deborah said in athleticism, you know, you have minor leagues and you have major leagues. That one thing could be, maybe that's where I'm at right now. My scope of influence is my family, my friends, people I do love, what I would call loved ones. Fine, if that's your scope of influence, go for it, fully go for it. And find it in your heart to love them and have compassion for them in all the ways they're needed. But as we stretch into upping our game, how can we find the capacity to have that same level of involvement, engagement, and commitment to our loved ones as we would have to strangers? And hold on, get ready for it, even our adversaries. You don't have to do any of this. What I do believe, though, is that if we want to get out of this back and forth of being stuck in this polarization, we have to find a way to transcend it. And that, I've been talking about that. I talk about that in companies and organizations. I talk about that in groups that I'm talking with for individuals.
Yeah.
And some of you know that there's a lot of discussions I'll have around that. I always come back to Auntie 𝗵𝗵𝗰𝗶𝗰𝗲𝘀, brilliant woman who recently passed away, who would talk about feeding the dragon, that the world system is the dragon. And that how are we feeding that system? And even in our anger and our fighting, we're still feeding the system. We're feeding the dragon. And the more we get into the back and forth of the polarization of othering, that they're woke, that they're fascist, the more we're contributing to it. And I was just thinking about this, of thinking of a mouse in a maze, and that the mouse is so focused in what's in front of them, and they can't find a way out. And they're trying to strategize, and they're trying to use reason to figure it out, and never for a moment taking a breath, looking up and seeing, oh, there's nothing above me. Instead of trying to run my way out in this very narrow way, what if I started learning how to jump? And I just jumped out of the maze. Now, it's a strategy and it might work, but that's the way out. And what if for us, what I'm advocating is that the way out is through our hearts? That as long as we're stuck in, I'm a victim, you're the perpetrator. And I'm talking about how we label ourselves. I'm talking about the political aspects of that. That there are people that need to be conquered, that there are people who need to be eliminated, that that way is not going to work. When we use words to describe, all we're doing really is creating more separation. We're contributing to the separation. And I would posit that the solution isn't, these people are not going away. If you have a political view or a way that you think society should be, and you're fighting for your way, and you think that someone else's way is the wrong way, and that they somehow mysteriously you think they're going to disappear so that you can have it your way, I don't know how successful that's going to be. I've been invited to speak at a conference at the end of April in the south of Italy. It's the Supranational Democracy Conference. I'll say that again because that's a mouthful. Supranational Democracy Conference. And it's scholars and NGO leaders and civil activists, professors, and students who are coming together to talk about how a supranational democracy solution to global challenges need to be addressed.
Mhm.
We need to transcend the labels of even nations. And these are people who are constitutional experts and scholars and lawyers. And we're coming together to have this conversation about a global approach to our constitutions. And I'm talking about fierce civility from the perspective of it has been proven over and over again that if you just create a law, that doesn't mean that people are going to start dancing down the streets doing what that law is.
Mhm.
That's been proven not to be true. So yes, you should create laws that protect people or give people more freedoms or that protect the planet. But who's doing the work of changing the hearts and minds of these people who don't necessarily like that law? That's our work. I would say that's my work. It's the messy work. Writing on a clause in an amendment in a constitution is, yes, a lot of work and takes a lot of brilliance, but it's kind of clean and easy. When I was at a conference in Sweden, a peace conference, 𝗪𝗵𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁, this brilliant woman from Ireland who was instrumental in the talks to bring about peace there. She started the Women's Party. She actually said, the reason why we're not coming up with solutions in Ireland is because there's no women at the table. So she started a Women's Party, and she got one seat in Parliament, and she was invited to the table. And she and I had wonderful conversations. And she would say, based on my work, Respectful Confrontation at that time, now Fierce Civility, she would say, Joe, my work is about peace. Your work is about lasting peace. She said, my work is about the negotiation table to sign the treaty that people stop shooting each other. But then the real work begins. What does it take then for people who just 3 days ago thought it was fine to actually kill someone who lived down the street, to now suddenly have to live with them and work with them, collaborate with them? It's all the work of the heart. So I'm bringing this up from this idea of how are we upping our game? In what way? That's what skills-based learning is, which is the work that we're doing. We're cultivating a new skill. It starts with the idea of it, right? Gathering the information, but that doesn't mean that you've already learned the skill. You can't fly a plane just by reading a book about it. At least I wouldn't want to get in the plane with you. That's the first step. And what I find unfortunate about our planet, I say this over and over again, is that this planet is filled with an enormous amount of information gatherers who haven't learned very much. The information's the first step. The next step is you take it into your heart, you contemplate it, you personalize it, you think of the consequences of it. You still haven't learned it. You've just deepened an awareness and have a deeper wisdom of it. And then the last step is actually practicing it, taking it into your body. And then the practice of doing it over and over and failing, and starting over. And from the failing, learning new. And then you start rewiring the nervous system, creating the neural pathways that it just comes from on its own. And I say this over and over again, so many communities that I'm involved with, that I'm sure a lot of you are involved with, every other sentence they say, we're all one. It's like you can't even, it's like saying, would you like a cup of coffee? Yes, we're all one. It comes out of our mouth so often. But are we actually living our moment to moment daily lives according to that we're all one? If we did, there would be no war. There would be no hunger. It wouldn't be possible. If we had the same commitment to strangers and adversaries that we have to loved ones, we couldn't bear it if a stranger on the other side of the planet was hungry. Now, I'm not there yet. That's why we practice. But I invite that for you to consider how much of your rhetoric is, even though you say we're all one, or you say that we've got to do this together, all of these phrases that we all say, how many of you are still, what you're posting on social media or the conversations you're having are still demonizing certain people, glorifying others, in a sense, not really giving an accurate depiction of the complexity of the situation. I want to read a quote. The Pope, Pope Francis, in case you don't know who he is, he's the Pope. He's in the Vatican. He's been very sick. And he wrote a letter to one of the administrators in the hospital who was very concerned about him. And in his very frail state, he said, in my frailty, I'm seeing more and more how we have to be advocating for peace and not war. We have to disarm. And I want to just read something that he says. I would like to encourage you and all those who dedicate work and intelligence to informing through communication tools that now unite our world in real time. Feel the importance of words. They are never just words. They are facts that build human environments. They can connect or divide, serve the truth or make use of it. We must disarm words to disarm minds and disarm the earth. There is a great need for reflection, for calm, and for a sense of complexity. Talks about the hope of peace. And then basically saying, of all the things he can say, we have to mind our words. We're using words that are, and I would offer that to you as a practice. Every thought, word, or action you do is to first ask, is this thought, word, or action bringing me closer together with, or is it creating more division? I think that's, to me, that's the work of our time. And I can, if I had more time, I would go into all of that, how the system has been set up to get us in such a state that we are just arguing with each other, fighting with each other here, and not looking up and seeing where the real issues are, where we should be, where we can all be united to actually have an impact. So I want to take that into our practice. This idea of just feeling into yourself, what does it mean to walk with your heart shimmering? And what are the things, what are the thoughts, the words, and the actions that are keeping you from that heart shimmering? And then afterwards, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your reflections on this. You know, I brought up a lot, but just offering this idea of really being mindful of that this time is a unique time where we may not even know the unique talents we have to offer. And if we're feeling depressed, if we're feeling isolated, if we're feeling alone, if we're feeling burnt out, that could just be the fuel that's needed to the sand in the oyster that's needed to create that pearl that we are meant to be and that we are. Okay, so let's do our practice, and I'll coach you through that as we always do. There's no right way to do it or wrong way to do it. It's about finding your way. And it starts with what I call power sit. Okay, we've got a few four-leggeds. Lisa's got a four-legged. I know Keith has a four-legged. We always love when the four-leggeds join us. There you go. Sitting in a way where your spine is not, it can be straight but not rigid. The definition we use of resilience is what we would say is a combination and a steady practice of presence, awareness, balance, and flow. Presence, awareness, balance, and flow. So this practice helps us to find that. Sitting in a sense of balance and flow, we want to sit where our body is the most, that can be balanced, where we can have the most flow happening through our body. So sitting with your spine erect without being rigid, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your belly. Power sit. From your center, become aware of your center. That's in your lower belly. The way we define that is it's about the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body, from the front of the body. You want to investigate that. If you take your index finger, place it over your navel where your pinky resides, that's the width of 3 fingers below your navel. From that point, take your attention now inside of your body about 1/3 of the way. See if you can place your full attention on that spot. Center of gravity, impulse, gut wisdom, personal power, and awareness. From your center, as you cultivate awareness, become aware of your contact points, the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on or the ground. Feel those points, parts of your body that are making contact with the chair, the cushion, the floor. All the neuroreceptors in those spots, picking up the information that what's under you is stable. And let that information flow to your brain, allowing your brain to activate the proper hormones to allow you to relax and drop in and let yourself be held. Fully dropping in, letting the ground under you represent Mother Earth herself. Honoring this spot you're on. Think of by an almost statistical miracle in this moment that you are sitting on this spot. You are part of the planet. All the beings that have walked where you are sitting, that have loved this spot that you're sitting on, have tended to it and cared for it. Honor them. Gratitude for them, gratitude for Mother Earth. Feel that energy flowing up towards you as you meet it, being held. From your center, becoming more aware of yourself, beginning with your physical body, just noticing from your center, what are you aware of? What sensations are you aware of? Listen to the vocabulary of the body. What is it telling you in this moment? No need to do anything. Simply listen. There's information there. It's wisdom. And learn its vocabulary. Trust its wisdom. From your center, become aware of your emotional body. What emotions are you present to in this moment? No need to judge them. No need to make a story up about them. Simply allow them to be and give them space to flow. What information is there with the emotions that you're present to right now? And from your center, become aware of your mental body, your thoughts. What are your thoughts? Not what they are particularly, what are the qualities of your thoughts? Information. Are they tight and judgmental? Are they spacious and loving and forgiving, and generous? Notice. Now maintain a connection with your core in your lower belly, your center, and now bring awareness to the middle of your chest, to your heart center, where your heart power resides. Respect, dignity, compassion, love. And if you remember from last month's practice, where your core values, like baby embers of fire, are always there, ignited on some level, a source of power and energy right there in your heart. And as you bring awareness to your heart, those embers just get lit up more. And from your center and from your core, become aware of the part of you that has connection to something larger than yourself. And from that part of you, what is your connection in this moment to something larger than yourself? That could be humanity, could be something spiritual, the matrix. And allow that to flow in, whatever that connection is. Flowing in from below you, from Mother Earth, that which is larger than yourself, flowing in, igniting your core and your heart. Allow that to now flow out towards the edges of your own personal space, filling your personal space, clarifying your own personal boundaries in all directions. Considering this idea of your heart shimmering as you are now fully present to who you are in this moment. And with that awareness, take a full deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And imagine maintaining this sense of awareness of yourself in this moment, your heart shimmering as you now bring your awareness now to your surroundings on the other side of your personal boundaries in the space that you're inhabiting. Try to sense that in all directions without needing to look. Simply use your awareness, putting yourself into a context. Gratitude for the space that you are in, the privilege of what you have. Honoring that. Your heart shimmering now, filling your whole space as you take a nice full deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Building on this awareness of the present moment with an awareness of yourself and your surroundings. Now from your center and from your heart, seek out connection with those in this meditation circle. Those who are joining us on the World Wide Web, in various parts of North America, various parts of Europe, and perhaps other parts of the world. And what happens to you now as you let your heart shimmer and expand it out to connect with those who are sharing this practice with you? Considering how just with your presence and awareness, the impact you are having on them right now, from your heart and your core. And consider in your own receptivity how their presence and connection might be influencing you in this moment. Think of the generosity of your heart shimmering as you share that with those in this meditation circle. Think about your courage to be willing to receive the shimmering hearts of those engaging with you, allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And with this awareness of self and your surroundings and your solidarity and connection with those in this meditation circle, from your center and your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, and out through your mouth. And feel the ease of this sense now as you're now connecting with others, of your heart shimmering. How much would you say does it feel like work? And how much is it just a sense of being, not doing? From the inside out, your power flowing out in all directions. And remembering that your power is unlimited. You can't exhaust it. As we now stretch into the next level of the practice, upping our game from your center and from your heart, maintaining connection with yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle. From your center and heart, connecting with all human beings. First beginning with those human beings you would label loved ones. And without thinking who arises in your heart, how many can you hold in your heart at this moment of loved ones? What faces do you see? Groups of people. Notice if that shifts the level of shimmer in your heart. Maybe it changes the color of it. Maybe it changes the sound of it, the frequency of it, the brightness of it. Simply notice. There's no right way to do this or wrong way to do it. It's simply observing. And just from your heart communicating as you stand face to face or sitting face to face with your loved ones, to just let the message radiate from your heart. We walk this earth together, our hearts shimmering. Just notice, how does that impact you? How does it impact them? And now from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label stranger. And I'm going to assume with each and every one of you that number could get as high as more than 7 billion. How many strangers can you hold in your heart in this moment? Don't overstretch. But challenge yourself. How many strangers can you hold in your heart? What faces do you see, or groups of people? It could be a neighbor, could be someone you saw in the supermarket, could be someone you saw who lives on the other side of the world on TV, in the news, newspaper. And fully engaging from your center and from your heart, connecting with their center and their heart. Considering this definition of love, the capacity to make someone happy, the desire to make someone happy, and acting on that desire with strangers. And as your heart is shimmering, activating within yourself the possibility of the desire to alleviate the suffering of these strangers and acting on that desire. And as your heart is connecting with theirs and your personal power, just let the message flow to them. We walk this earth together, our hearts shimmering. And notice the impact it might have on them, the impact on you. As you gather more shimmering hearts in your own space. And now from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label adversary. And be clear, how many arise in your heart right now? What faces do you see or groups of people? Be honest with yourself, be courageous. How does that shift your level of shimmering of your heart? The color, the sound, the intensity, the brightness. Can you stand face to face? What's your level of safety in this moment? And to just consider the idea. You don't have to do anything, but just to consider the idea. Can you muster up the desire to see them happy? And I think more importantly for this practice, can you actually muster up the desire to alleviate their suffering? Considering again that it's in your vulnerability that your true power is revealed. For those who are using external false sense of power have no sense of their own authentic personal power. Consider the suffering of that. And to whisper the message or scream the message from your heart to them. We walk this earth together, our hearts shimmering. And how that might impact them, how it impacts you. And as you continue to now feel the shimmering hearts of those you are now connected with, just almost see the shimmering dissolve the rigidity and the hardness of separation, of labels. And with the efforts of this energy that you're generating to spread out to all beings on this planet and to Mother Earth herself, to the planet itself. And hold that in your heart, that image, that sensation. And to anchor that within yourself, take a full deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And with that awareness, now allow all human beings to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to those in this meditation circle. And with a deep internal bow to each and every one of us, with our hearts shimmering. Allow those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surrounding, the space you're in, and an honoring of that. Allow your surroundings to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. Feel the sensations of the practice you've done. Let the benefits of that flow into every cell, feeling every cell shimmer. Allow that energy to flow into all of your organs as a way to nurture and to heal and to rejuvenate. Flowing into your nervous system, Your muscle memory is a way to remember this. And as a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Registering what this practice has been for you. Slowly opening your eyes. Look around the room, shake your body, stretch your body. So we started with a motivation. We did our practice. Now we have a moment to reflect. Would anybody like to share? To unmute? You don't need permission, just unmute. And if you want to type something, you could, but I would prefer to hear your voice. Based on the things that I was sharing, I was talking about, and also the practice. Anybody want to jump in?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
I'm always sort of gobsmacked by the synchronicities. A couple of days ago, I decided that I would write my 100 days of this administration missive. And basically it said, all right, I've heard enough. We've seen enough. We know who he is. Nothing's going to change. I am going to stop chronicling the excesses of this administration. And I'm shifting my attention to the people who are stepping up and doing brilliant things in the world. People who are stepping up in a wonderful way to not just resist, but to create something new. That's where my focus is going to be in terms of what I post. So that was going to be my 100 days, but I'm not going to wait. I decided to write 80 days now and cross off a 100 and post it anyway.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for your courage and your wisdom. That's jumping out of the maze. To me, that's an example of jumping out of the maze.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joe, I have a question. It's kind of hard to phrase it, but collecting information is, of course, crucial to any interaction we want to have or decision we want to make. How do you know when you have enough information? How do you decide that you've got to stop just collecting, but doing?
That's a good question. You're talking about skills-based learning. I think, you gather the info. You don't need to spend a lot of time. You do all three at the same time, right? If you think about driving a car, I mean, you do read some information about it, but it's not until you start driving it that you start learning how to do that. And the idea actually is that you gather the information, you contemplate it in your heart, you try it, and in the doing of it, you gather more information. You don't gather more, you don't have to keep reading the same book. You don't have to gather more data. If you need more data along the way, you'll know. That's your wisdom. But you gather the data through the doing. You get information that you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't start doing. So I guess the answer is start doing as soon as possible. I'm not saying that's a right answer. I'm just saying if you're asking, I would say, gather as much information as you need to, right? We're talking about flying a plane, there's a lot of data I'm going to need before I get in that plane. But we're not talking about flying a plane. We're talking about cultivating love and compassion, which is probably more complex and challenging.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
I would share that I'm still very impressed by this meditation. I still feel the sensation in my whole body. It's really a new way of global thinking. It was really powerful, and many things happened. So yeah, I only want to thank you all, because I felt you, I felt many people, and yeah, we live on a beautiful planet.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Namaste.
And I know you, Judith, I know you now for 175 years or so.
Yeah.
And I know how powerful and beautiful and loving your heart is. So, yeah, you're ready.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joe, I'll
Yeah.
just very quickly, I want to thank you for bringing the word shimmering back into my mental lexicon. And as you use the word shimmering, there happens to be a car parked outside our window and the sun is literally shimmering off of it. So it's a great metaphor. So thank you. And thank you for this meditation.
Thank you.
I can feel the connectiveness in the word shimmering, like it's a multi-pointed, reflective piece where I can feel the connection. And it's interesting because when I think about going back to your question, Robert, about like, how do I know when it's enough? Sometimes for me, it's about the aftertaste. Like when I've consumed another piece of information, what does my body feel like? What does my heart feel like? What does my whole energy system feel like? And if it feels disjointed and rugged and heinous, then I'm kind of like, why am I consuming that? And there's something about being in the dark womb of not knowing and knowing that it's not about this, it's about that. And I don't know what that is yet, but I know that this that I continue to participate in is not what is the answer for me or for us. So there's something about being willing to let go of knowing and be in the curiosity of creation. Like, what are the new ways?
I also love the anchoring of shimmering because it's visual as well as kinesthetic, and there's probably a sound as well to it. So that just the one word then brings me right back to the meditation. And at the end, standing on the planet, feeling the whole planet shimmering, imagining that everyone is holding hands for 1 second. That was the last visual. So yeah, and I can go back to that over and over. So thank you.
Thank you for it's nice to when you can throw in these images, because we're anchoring it, like we're creating it, we're manifesting it. There's very powerful people in this particular call that I know. That's so, and that's, it just needs that one moment. That's all it needs, right? Leilani, you know that. And to have a real direct experience of what oneness really is. Even just that one moment. It never goes away. It's now anchored in all of our systems. Thank you.
I wanted to share something. Good to see you, Joe. And I was deeply reminded of the interconnectedness, a reminder of our interconnectedness, and what are we, of saying oneness and we're all one, and what are we actually, doing action-wise. And one thing I've been doing first thing in the morning is just going outside and really connecting with nature and remembering our connectedness to nature and what she has to offer us. And right after this, and then I've also been, I want to show something, but practicing then bringing her inside, bringing a stone, bringing a leaf, whatever, and having that connectedness of nature inside and outside. And I just did that a few days ago, but I've just saw this in a different way that I'd never seen. And right when I opened my eyes after the meditation, I was reminded of our natural, as human beings, when we celebrate something, we naturally like put our arms up, right? Like someone goes across the finish line, they do that, or they're going to hug somebody that they're so excited to see. And we naturally do that and open our heart. And as I came out of the meditation, I looked at this piece of nature that I just brought in, and look what, can you see the arms? It's hard with the backlight, but they're like that. Here, let me. Yeah, they totally have their arms up. So it was very sweet, and you can't see, but beyond that window is the plant, is the bush of those flowers. So it's a reminder of that nature, the interconnectedness of us. And so it was a thank you. It was a beautiful reminder of then what action, even if little, are we doing to make that a real thing. So thanks.
Thank you. And these are all beautiful ways to help us remember and get, because, you know, I've been talking a lot about this, about hope. You know, the Pope, once again, Pope Francis talks about hope. There's a Gallup poll that came out, I think I mentioned that in the last one, that 52 countries, there were people gathering information, asking what are people asking for in leaders, and 56% said hope. So for me, hope is a very concrete and real thing. It's not, you know, what we're doing here isn't just a fun, lofty thing. This is what we need. You know, I'm holding this space. My hope is to this idea of I'm holding this space so that when we begin to lose hope or connection, or we begin to get tired, we can come back here and remember exactly how it could be and how it should be and how it is. And this is how it is. Véronique?
Yes, thank you for gathering us. What I most felt during the practice was a deep sense of calm and gratitude. And when when you guided us to, you know, what am I feeling? I just sat with, I feel calm, I feel calm. And I was like, is that a thought or is that a feeling? Let me just really pause a little bit more. And what am I feeling? And the word and the feeling that came, which for me now is really the feeling of hope. But I didn't feel hope. That's not the word that came. The word and the feeling that came was and is trust. And so to be gathered here with strangers, I know you a little bit, and to feel trust and safe and literally held on the chair and in the ground, and trusting that I can have a thought of calling forward in my mind and in my heart someone that I'm having a challenge with. It stirs it up for me, and I humbly appreciate this because I'm not very good at pausing my life when I'm not feeling trusting and calm, and just immediate and literally sitting and meditating or breathing, even though I've learned the practice. So it really helps to embody it and feel it. I'd also like to speak into a little bit of a practice that I've begun in the last 2 months, especially as it relates to current events and news. As I read them on my phone, going through different apps, I find myself, of course, you know, upset, not upset, wishing something was a little different. And I find myself going to the notes section of my iPhone, and what comes through is almost like a typed affirmation, like, well, if there's a lack of money, then let's go find money. And that opens up a little bit of a creative, intentional space. And so I love hearing that there's creative gathering that's intentional. And in that humble space, I also found myself just this last week in one of those exercises of, oh, well, you know, that wasn't so great. Did it happen that way? I then went back and wrote the word compassion. I was like, let me add compassion to what this person did, because maybe that's a sign that that person is stressful, worried, concerned. And I realized that I hadn't gone back and kind of added compassion to everything I'd written. So part of what I'm holding and taking forward is the power of words, and that even if that's like a little journal or whatever that is for me, that those are words, and that it can be a creative but to go back intentionally. And so thank you for everyone for being here with me. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, 𝗵𝗶. Yeah. And that's the message I'm trying to say, is that that's ours to do right now, is to the practice of keep bringing us back to our highest values and our best selves, because the world system's doing a good job of taking that from us, in a sense, or we're allowing it to happen. And that's where the hope resides. That's where the new solutions will emerge. All right, well, thank you. Let's dedicate this. Well, let's first, here are my announcements. So as always, I don't ask for money in the start, but there's a link in the chat if you want to donate. If you're feeling generous and feel like you got something from this, you can send us a donation to the Fierce Civility Project, and that money is used to continue to promote this work. You can purchase books. You can purchase a t-shirt or a mug, an Occupy Here t-shirt or mug. That's all. Please take a look at upcoming events. Oh, and Thursday, April 10th, is a one-year anniversary of the TEDx talk coming out, A Cure for Chronic Niceness. So if you wouldn't mind, as a way of celebrating that, watch it again. If you haven't already watched it 25 times, watch it again. And maybe you can pass that on to 2 or 3 other people. We're up to 4,100 views, which I'm very grateful for, and counting. So, Deborah?
If we watch it again, does it make your counter go up?
Yeah, I believe so. You can watch it every day. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. Good question. So let's dedicate this. Let's dedicate this to those whose hearts maybe feel really heavy right now. But the energy that we've generated, the brilliant people that have been here to create this energy, that this energy is directed more towards them, that in some way that shimmer just gets activated in their hearts. That those who are really feeling lost, that they find some sense of refuge in this moment. That those who are hurting can find some sense of being soothed. And that those who are having doubts about their sense of power in this moment, may all of those doubts fall away so that they can see themselves for who they are and be part of the solution and not contributing to the problem. Okay, thank you. Every second Tuesday of the month, if you all came next month, that would make me very happy. If you all brought another person, that would make me even happier. So remember the desire to make someone happy and acting on that desire. Just kidding. Anyway, it's great to see you all, truly. And let's stay in touch, and see you again.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much.